Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. Got a good show on tap for you guys today. It's a Sunday. It's warmer out. Wanted to give people some extra time. People reached out to me about doing the show at 8 o'clock. I was looking to do it a little bit earlier than what I usually do. And obviously now we are doing more of just direct streaming on YouTube, allowing more people to find more time to jump on board and get to the show. Obviously, the comment section has been lighting up. We've got a full impact show today. Number one, Pitt acquires Cole Gonzales, quarterback out of Oklahoma/Western Carolina, a guy who's very talented. We'll go over his stats today. Also, Julian Duggar, redshirt freshman quarterback going into this year, hits the transfer portal. We'll talk about really what went into that decision, what I've heard, and if it was a good decision or bad. And I think there's a pretty clear decision overall on if it was good or bad or not. Also, an update on Hykeem Williams. Was going to talk about it today. I kind of put up emojis during the week that I heard that there was going to be a decision coming on Monday or Tuesday. Matt Zenitz, who does a great job, ended up putting it out here roughly about an hour ago. A decision is looked to be made. He said in the coming days, I've been told roughly between Monday and Tuesday, a massive decision for Hykeem Williams, no longer visiting Miami, coming down to the decision of Colorado, Pitt, and Syracuse. I mean, Pitt's in a good spot. We'll go over a number of different things there, and then we'll obviously open it up to Q&A. Plenty of different topics to talk about. But before we get into it, guys, the show, of course, is sponsored, and we've just signed a new deal for another year of sponsorship with Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Tremendous people. Again, they held a Pitt can, Icy Light. Again, a very cool design, very cool partnership for Pitt. They do a great job there. It's always good to have that. Colonial Beer will soon be working with, or on the verge of working with them. We'll see what happens in terms of laws, regulations, what all goes into that. But Colonial Beer having a good partnership with DoorDash, being able to deliver to people. They certainly try to find their best way to serve the customer and serve you and serve me. And I can tell you this, they do a great job. They're a small business. They are tremendous people. Bill and Alan do a tremendous job from top to bottom. The people who work there have a great overall attitude, but their customer service is top-notch. Again, they are two great Pitt people, season ticket holders, Alliance 412, and athletic fund director, sponsors, and fundraisers. They do a great job overall for the organization at Pitt. They support Pitt football, Pitt basketball, as you can imagine, and they do a great job. But anytime we can help out a small business, it's always a major bonus and plus for us. So again, make sure you go see Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. The show is also sponsored by Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Again, Brian, as many of you got to meet him at Pitt games last year. I got to introduce a lot of you guys to him last year. He was going to be coming on as a sponsor. You guys got to meet him at the spring game, which was incredible. Very cool environment, getting able to see parents, being able to talk to numerous different people. He was able to see a lot of different conversations that I have on a day-in, day-out basis. He's truly the best. When it comes to being an attorney, Brian cares about you, the individual. Larger law firms will be more concerned about the overall aspect, the bigger picture of things. Brian cares about you, the individual, and the results that you need to be successful in your case. Brian truly comes from a great family and has a great family. Tremendous work in the community in terms of volunteer work, and he also loves supporting his sons and daughter in their numerous sporting events. They're very athletic, just like Brian was, and he does a tremendous job from top to bottom. He's actually in Columbus right now, going to a soccer event with his son. A very dedicated individual to his kids, and that's what makes him a great father. But more importantly, he does a great job in the courtroom. And if you need someone, Brian is that guy. If he doesn't have the answer, he'll guide you through the process to make sure you're not left alone, you're not left without answers. He'll get you the answers that you need to be successful, to where you are comfortable with the outcome of the overall case. Again, Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. And lastly, the K Collection Coffee brand by Austin Kitchen, my younger brother, at www.thekingscraft.com. His brand is the K Collection, a black bag. There's three different ones. The Nicaragua, which is a very, very good brand, a good batch. The Guatemala batch, and the espresso batch. Those three tremendous ones. Personally, my favorite is the espresso. I use it every morning before I go to my office. I even got a lot of people from my office in the banking world to really jump on board with it, and they certainly love it, and they've continued to really support Austin, which I'm very thankful for. I'm very thankful for each and every one of you who have reached out to me, who have talked about buying the coffee brand, but even Austin reaching out to me, seeing the people that buy it. He's like, man, Jay, there's a lot of Pitt fans involved with this, so it's always good to see. We really appreciate it. Again, the K Collection Coffee by Austin Kitchen. Go ahead and get that brand, the K Collection, a black bag with the backwards K at www.thekingscraft.com. The comments are flowing in, but we have to get to our first one because he's always the best. Pitman Zach, 94, a $10 donation to the podcast. We just thank you enough. And, of course, when you always put in here, Zach, first, we get you on board first. Keep the great work, JJ. Hearing other names that Pitt is going after. Thank you, as always. We're looking to give you guys the best info as possible. They're going into a number of different aspects. Obviously, we landed the tight end from Marshall. Personally, me, I think it's more of a body to have in that tight end room. A guy that has not had a lot of production at the college game. We'll continue to see how a guy like Bronowski is able to coach up a guy like that. Jake Overman did not have a lot of catches when he came to Pitt from Oregon State. Jake Overman really took off, really propelled himself into the starting position that he's at today. And we'll continue to monitor that. They're looking at, I think, other running backs, potential running backs to bring in here that make sense. I think they're still looking at offensive linemen that they're looking at. I think J.B. Nelson's still out there. That's a guy they've certainly contacted, transfer offensive tackle / guard from Penn State. He's out there, a Whippio attribute. But also, too, Hykeem Williams is really the guy they're looking at right now at wide receiver. Preferably, I think the wide receiver room, when you look at the guys they have in there now, Deuce Spann, Raphael Poppy Williams, Kenny Johnson. Kenny Johnson looks to return. From everything I've heard, we will not know everything. I think Julian Duggar may have been the last player to hit the portal, but we officially will not know until Tuesday. The portal closed on Friday, but you have 48 hours to process the work and the paperwork to go into the portal. But the fact that we have not heard anything else from any other players as we sit here on Sunday, I truly believe that is the last player to go into the portal. There was a lot of conversation going back and forth. When we got to Saturday, wasn't sure if he was going to be able to jump in there or not. And then later on, the news came out that he did indeed hit the portal. And we'll talk about that later on tonight. But Hykeem Williams is really the big fish out there right now that they're dialed in and focused on. He canceled a visit to Miami, which was pretty surprising. A guy who's from the Florida area, especially South Florida. Maybe I'm mistaken. I think he might be from. He's from Stratham High School. I think he actually may be in northern towards Tallahassee. I'd have to check out where that high school is. But anyways, he's a Florida wide receiver. Canceled his visit to Miami. He's truly down to Pitt, Syracuse, and Colorado. I've heard they're all continually close. I think that Pitt right now is the front runner as we sit here today. They're certainly having conversations, and again, money is a factor in anything else that goes into this. I think what really helps out Pitt is the quarterback situation. They have their quarterback situation all figured out. Syracuse just got a transfer quarterback in from Notre Dame, but has not learned the system, has not worked with his teammates. And Colorado is still working to get their next quarterback and what that offensive room looks like. So Pitt certainly has the edge in the quarterback room, which has been certainly talked about to me, not just the money aspect of it. So that's a major factor, and Pitt certainly leads in that area. So we'll be watching here within the next 2 days, really Monday and Tuesday. I would expect a decision the latest day Tuesday. The longer it gets dragged out, I think the more the conversation comes down to money. It's kind of where I get to. But I know right now Pitt's in a strong position, and I think that right now, we'll watch and see what it looks like. But I have not gotten a confirmation that Pitt is it. I know Pitt's in a strong position. That's what I've been told, and which is a very good thing to hear. So I think right now, though, that they feel like they are the leaders in the room because of the overall offer and the quarterback situation to get the ball to Hykeem. So we'll continue to monitor that. But overall, that's great news. I think that, there's certain aspects of a player when they hit the portal, they're looking for different things and different aspects of what they need to achieve when they hit the portal. So we'll watch that here this week. These next 2 days will really be a fun time for us Pitt fans, certainly to watch on board and see what that looks like and see if he actually does close this time and really enters Pitt. So we'll see. Again, thank you so much, Zach, for the super chat. Guys, down below, the super chat button is down below. If you want to make a small donation to the podcast, we'll get your question up on the screen right away. Because obviously there's a lot of questions coming in here today. So Pitman, Zach, really appreciate that and all your support. WRW Pitt, smash the like button and subscribe and join Alliance 4 and 2. As always, if you've not done so, down below, hit the like button and subscribe. 2 easy things that helps out with the algorithm, and they're both free. So make sure just down below, hit the like button and subscribe. Katura, Cade Bell, quarterback development over transfers. Then he gets a transfer. He makes depth chart based on practice and losses and loses Duggar. Not good. I'm going to be honest with you. I completely disagree with you. I think that we need to trust the coaches. From my understanding is that, I think there were some people in Julian's ear to really get him to enter the transfer portal. I think that there was an understanding that Mason Heinchel had passed Julian Duggar. And, the thing that I look at is, I understand why he hit the portal. It seems like from everything that we've heard is that Mason Heinchel had really had a pretty damn good spring. I mean, to the point where there was even questions of who had a better spring, Eli or Mason, and Mason was close to getting that nod. Mason had a really good spring, and I talked to numerous people that have agreed to the same. And when I asked about, the potential that did Mason pass Julian Duggar, the majority of people said yes, that was what it came down to. So I understand why Julian Duggar hit the portal. It makes sense for him. But at the same time, though, as well, when you look at Power 4 and Division I offers, Pat Narduzzi was really the only coach, the only offer that he got out of high school. With the way that the quarterback position has been at Pitt, with Eli Holstein still having plenty of stuff to prove, Mason Heinchel having stuff to prove. Now Cole Gonzalez comes on board. He's got stuff to prove. But even the injury aspect of it, I truly don't understand this move. With 4 years of eligibility left, I mean, I don't know why it's not good. And I see your other comment down here. It's especially egregious losing a Whippio quarterback with star potential. There could be significant recruiting ramifications with this blunder. I don't know what blunder that is. I mean, Pitt, has gotten Whippio players that they have certainly liked and they have wanted to get. They have not gotten the top echelon guys. They've gone to Penn State or they've gone out of state. But overall, it's potential. So I'm not sure what we're missing here. Did we lose Johnny Unitas to the transfer portal? Did I miss something? In the 48-46 loss to Toledo, he was 7 of 13, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I mean, it's one game against Toledo. I mean, I'm like, what am I missing here? Did we lose Joe Montana? Did Dan Marino get reincarnated? Is this Lamar Jackson? I'm very confused. I mean, I understand he's got a lot of potential, and I agree he has a lot of potential. But for people who I read online today, just losing their mind in terms of ramifications, I mean, if there are people behind the scenes telling Julian Duggar, whether it's his parents or other Whippio coaches within the City League or somebody else telling him to leave, then by all means, have at it. I'm really sorry. But when you're the third guy on the depth chart, I understand why he left. I would have just probably waited another year because of all the injuries at the quarterback position. I think that there would have been certainly a lot of packages for Julian Duggar in this offense. They looked for him as a guy that continues to show up. He certainly works his tail off, a guy that could be an RPO guy, dual threat, and numerous different areas where, God forbid, let's say Eli Holstein doesn't play well. What's to say that Julian Duggar or Mason Heinchel don't get a shot? I mean, we've seen in the past. And I think Pat Narduzzi has really stressed that to say, hey, you know what? If there's 2 or 3 games in a row where we look at and say, hey, there's a problem here, they make a move. So what was the purpose of that? If he goes to another Power 4 team, I'd say it's a good move because then he gets an overall fresh start. But if you're going to the group of 5 or even lower, I'm very confused by this move. It doesn't make very much sense. And I think that some of these people are getting caught up in the terms of potential. Everybody has potential when you're recruited. You have to play a full year. We watched the first 7 games, 6-7 games with Eli. Had a couple bad games where he made bad reads, bad throws. but as a guy who started as a redshirt freshman and had Pitt up to 7-0. In his time as a starter, he was 7-1. 7-1 as a starter. I mean, that's not bad. So I'm very confused on how this is, bad or ramifications. I mean, the one thing that when I talk to other coaches within the Whippio, there seems to be, this utter drama that some guys think that they're above Pitt. Hey, that's your prerogative. But when you look at the opportunities to get to Power 4 football, you need every opportunity you can get. If they want to frown their face at Pitt, have at it. Because guess what? I don't see people getting mad at Penn State. Why did Penn State, if Julian was so good, why did Penn State not offer Julian Duggar out of high school? Carlo Zovko and Pat Narduzzi found Julian Duggar and said, this guy can play. And he continued to progress. All we heard is that he continued to progress. And the coaches wanted him to be there to be able to have a competition, especially into the summer and into the fall. Nobody's guaranteed a spot. We can presume right now that Eli Holstein is the projected starter because he was a starter last year. But I think that if we've seen anything, Pitt allows players to compete. And with the numerous injuries, I think he actually would have hit the field this year. And if he plays well, they're not giving the ball back to anybody else. They're keeping the guy with the hot hand. So I'm very confused on the overall drama of people. And that, like, oh, it's the Whippio. I'm sorry. There's really each year 2 or 3 Whippio players at the top echelon that can go into play Power 4 football. I mean, the Whippio is not like it was when you had legitimate players coming out from 2000 to 2010, 2012, 2013. 10, 12, 13 years ago, it's a completely different ballgame. I think Pitt does a great job they've made a lot of great connections in Michigan, a lot of great connections in Ohio, a lot of great connections in Florida especially. The amount of draft picks that we've had out of Pitt from Florida and first round picks. The players we've had out of Georgia, great players from there. Great players from the Carolinas. Great players now that we're adding from Texas. I just don't. Even New Jersey. New Jersey has been another one. And Maryland. The amount of players we've had out of Maryland. Powerhouses like the Matha Catholic. I don't get it. I'm very confused on the ramifications of a blunder where a competition was held. There was more of a competition going to be happening in the summer and the fall. And I think this is a move on, basically, he understood that he was in the third string. And there was concern that Mason Heinchel came in and was the better quarterback. That's kind of how I see it. Questions here. The number of dumb yinzers who are acting like at just lost the next Marino is laughable. With the transfer, he was at best number 4. And that's a great point. Who gives a treat? Yeah. Who gives a rat's ass what the Whippio thinks of Duggar transferring? The Whippio isn't what it used to be. And Derek, we just had just saying here, it's not what it used to be. There are still players out there. A couple players from Central Catholic, Gatton, the linebacker, I think he's going to be a hell of a linebacker. Pitt is certainly involved there. I think they're in great position so far from everything that I've heard, that they've done a good job recruiting him, and they have an opportunity there. There's other players within Peters Township, a couple linebackers. One of them just went to Stanford, chose Stanford, over, Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia. There are other guys that are there, and we've already added some guys. Timmons, the safety and a slash cornerback out of Pine Richland. I think right now Pitt's that leader right there. I think he may be waiting on a Penn State offer there. We'll see. But it's funny, though. I don't see the where is the ramifications on players that Penn State's not playing from the Whippio? Whippio guys that are sitting on the bench right now that aren't playing. Or Tamir Robinson, who was a redshirt freshman going into, I guess, a technically redshirt sophomore going into next year, hits the portal and goes to USC, Southern Cal. Where was the ramifications on that? I don't see any people freaking out about that. It's mind-boggling to me. Can Pitt be better in recruiting? Of course they can. I mean, of course. But the Whippio is not what it used to be. And I think, Shep Turk, Pitt got lucky with a guy like Shep Turk, who's going to be a really good offensive lineman for Pitt, very aggressive, great footwork, and a state champion in wrestling. But when you look at the overall offensive line play from early on in the early 2000s, the mid-2000s to now, offensive line play in the Whippio has dropped dramatically. Those guys have fallen off. And if guys feel like they know who Pitt is and that they want to just frown their face at Pitt, and these coaches do, by all means, have at it. But when Penn State doesn't offer you, or when you're in the portal, how many of these guys call Pitt back and say, I want to move back to Pitt? Look how many transfers we've added back from the Whippio. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. It's got to be held both ways. When you look at a Whippio guy that I was really upset about, that I don't think Pitt pursued enough early on because he's a 2027 guy. He's a wide receiver. Pitt already has a 4-star commitment from a wide receiver already. But with Khalil Taylor out of St. LaSalle, I think that kid's going to be a superstar. I think he's a superstar in the making. And I thought that was a guaranteed loss for Pitt. And then, again, still to 2027. Things can change. I like Tyke Hayes a couple of years ago. Or this past year that went to Penn State, I think he's going to be a hell of a football player. Whether he hits the field there or not, depending upon how many guys are there, I thought he could have played right away with a Desmond Reed, a bigger back. Tyke Hayes could have played really 3 years at Pitt and gone to the National Football League. That's how highly I think of him. But, I mean, I'm just confused on, okay, he dropped to third string. He played one game, was 7 of 13 for 73 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He certainly showed promise. He got better in camp. But when you have a guy like Mason who stepped up and was clearly the better quarterback, and the coaching staff as a whole and teammates thought the same thing, how can you be upset with that? I mean, are we here to win football games or make people feel good? I think we're here to win football games. I think Pitt fans would rather win football games. No chance he goes P5. We'll see. I mean, there's obviously the quarterback rooms are tight right now. We'll see, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes. The Duggar transfers is less of an indictment on Pitt, but more of a glowing review of Mason. I agree. We saw Duggar play well, and Mason had already passed him in one spring. That means we hit on Mason, in my opinion, and I agree. And I think there are numerous peoples in the outside parties that agree, and that's why this decision was made. Just my opinion. And I thought it was funny. I have my gripes about Pat Narduzzi. I mean, they are endless. I've been very critical of Pat Narduzzi. But some of these comments like, well, he needs to get away from Pat Narduzzi. I mean, can we be realistic here? Pitt was the only P4 offer that Julian Duggar got. The only one. And there was strikingly bad criticism because they didn't start him as a freshman? I don't know. And when teammates think otherwise, that there are better quarterbacks, kind of says proof in the pudding. And again, Julian Duggar could go on to be a great quarterback. But just why we're losing our minds over a guy that played one game in uniform who has potential, yes, but I mean, we've seen Eli Holstein has potential. He still has plenty to prove. Mason Heinschel has plenty to prove. Cole Gonzalez, who comes in from Oklahoma, has plenty to prove. And that really dives me into Cole Gonzalez now. Pitt adds Cole Gonzalez at Oklahoma. He transferred to Oklahoma. He was the backup there. From after spring, he looked to be the backup to the starter that was currently there, from talking to numerous people that I know. Obviously, Jason Watkins over at the Hall of Fame Football Podcast was not going to be a starter this year, but a backup. I think after word got to really the coaching staff at Pitt, they said, look, we need to go out and get another quarterback. And they pretty much said, look at our history of quarterbacks we've had here, especially the system really well here. You could potentially be the backup this year. And I think there's an opportunity to do that. He's going to come in here and compete with Mason Heinschel for the backup quarterback spot. This is a kid from Western Carolina that played, 2 years under the scheme of Cade Bell. in his time overall at Western Carolina, besides winning this, the backup job at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma loved him, by the way, down there. That was a kind of a barn burner. They lost him, and they're back in the portal now looking for another quarterback. Passing yards, Cole Gonzales had 6,682 yards passing in 3 years with the Western Carolina Catamounts. TD passes, had 51 touchdown passes in that 3-year span. And last year, even in a time period last year where he only played really half the season because due to an injury, he was first team All-South Conference quarterback in the conference. I mean, he's got accolades. And for me, I kind of look at it as he's not going to be the starter, but I think he can be a valuable asset in terms of coaching this offense up and really helping a guy like Mason continue to get the offense down. I've heard he's done a really good job of learning this offense, which is very rare for a young quarterback, a true freshman quarterback. And he's still got summer to learn even more. He's got fall to learn even more. I think Cole Gonzales brings that aspect of, he knows this offense. He can run this offense. He's been very successful in running this offense. His success at Western Carolina led him to over 15 scholarship offers in the Power Four, committed to Oklahoma. Actually went there with one of his teammates, offensive lineman. I mean, the kid can play. 6 foot, 200 pounds. More than likely will probably add on some more LBs as he hits the Pitt Ironworks here. From my understanding, he's probably a little bit heavier than that from his time at Oklahoma. They do a good job down there in their weight training program. I know they do a really good job overall. So he's probably got more weight on there. I'll get an update on his overall weight. But I think this is a real benefit. And you see that. You have those three quarterbacks. You're looking at really, Eli Holstein, Mason Heinschel, and Cole Gonzales. Three guys that are on the roster for scholarship quarterbacks. But then you have Bo Jackson, who's a walk-on, a guy that they have said could potentially be a guy who can really run this offense down the road, an RPO quarterback, a guy who can really progress into the quarterback they're looking for down the road. That's a fourth guy. David Lynch, I think he's a good reserve type of guy. Obviously, we saw does not have a strong arm, does not have those qualities to be a starter at the P1 the P4 conference, but a guy that has certainly run the offense. I think if he just cuts down on the overall turnovers, kid can play. I think he's a good backup and a guy that can really keep you in ball games. I think there's no problem with me on that. What raised my eyebrow in the spring game between Mason and Duggar was that the team picked Mason over Duggar. That's another thing. And again, as I said, his teammates saw something different. His teammates saw a player that immediately was better. Yeah, Katera, I'm not saying you're losing your mind. I'm talking about the people on X losing their mind. I saw numerous people on X today losing their mind, like we had lost like Johnny Unitas or Peyton Manning to the portal. Not saying you. I understand what you're saying. How you start a walk on over Duggar. I agree. I thought that was stupid. Then you say Mason is better just because of one spring practice. I mean, again, not saying you lost your mind. I'm saying, though, how can you not say he's better at quarterback than one guy who's played over spring? I mean, the coaches are right there. They're watching guys who are in the live scrimmages and in practices. Quarterback accuracy, touchdown passes, interceptions. I mean, when you have 15 practices to prove yourself, and really 14 of them are between you and the coaches and watching you in live aspects with the same team, I mean, it's kind of there. And I think that the biggest thing was during the season, Julian Duggar didn't get a lot of snaps. I still say that was wrong. They started David Lynch. I thought that was stupid. But then again, it's easy for me to play Monday quarterback. Maybe they saw something that we didn't see. Maybe Julian Duggar is just not a good practice player, a guy who can't practice during very well during the practice off season. I mean, Tim Tebow was a guy who didn't practice very well, but he was a gamer, and they kind of relied on him to be a gamer, and certainly had different aspects of practices that he didn't participate very well in. But when the game time, the lights came on, he was damn good. But overall, I mean, he's right there in front of the coaches. And Katura, to your point, well, it's in one spring. I mean, his own teammates, they picked Mason over him in the spring game. You kind of have to have it there. But also, too, there has to be an aspect of, Julian Duggar was here for 1 year. Why did he not stay another year? If he stays one more year, he's got 3 years of eligibility left. Unless he's guaranteed a starting spot that we don't know about in the group of 5 or somewhere else, a very confusing move. Let me see here. There's a question in here. Let's see here. Let me see here. Let's see here. Here we go. All right, it's back on. Using taxes and tuition. I literally just pulled up an article within 2 minutes. And it says from WTAE here. So I have to answer this question because this is like just such a dumb question. And it's always Byron, and I appreciate him changing his name to try to get comments in here. Pittsburgh tax dollars and college tuition payments may soon be helping pay hefty college salaries for college athletes. A pending court settlement would allow Division I colleges to spend up to $20.5 million per year paying athletes. College sports fans are passionate about their teams. The passion has fueled multi-million-dollar name, image, and likeness deals for players. The money comes from wealthy alumni corporations. That could change this year. Thanks to the so-called House settlement, the idea of tuition and tax dollars subsidizing college athletes is unsettling to some students. I like our sports teams. I like watching them, but I would prefer if money came from somewhere else than to paying players and tax dollars, said Pitt student Ryan Schindler. I mean, Pitt Tough Guy, that's from every single team. I mean, that is literally every single team across the country. How do you, Pitt Tough Guy, if you could just help me out with this real quick, how do you expect Pitt to pay players then? How do you expect any school to pay players? Where do you think it comes from? Like, just out of curiosity, I'm very confused because from that article that says there too that other universities are doing it. So I'm just confused on where you're getting that from. Matt, anything that surprised you in the draft regarding Pitt? I was kind of surprised how late Gavin Bartholomew went. I thought for sure, and then also Kanate Mumfield. I thought Mumfield was a late day 2, early day 3, so like late 3rd round or 4th or 5th round pick. He ended up going the 7th round. I mean, he gets picked up by the LA Rams, which is a perfect place for him. Sean McVay is a hell of an offensive coordinator. Donovan McMillan not getting drafted was pretty crazy. I thought for sure he'd be drafted. From numerous people I talked to, I thought he was for sure going to get drafted on day 3, a day 3 pickup. He signs with the Cleveland Browns. I think a good situation for him. Biggest thing is, obviously, when you get into an undrafted situation, you got to be able to perform at a high level on special teams. I think he can do that. And then with him getting on special teams, he can provide that depth at the safety position. So his numbers speak for themselves. I think he continues to play like he usually does. He'll make that roster and really perform the way you make a roster in the NFL when you're an unsigned guy or a free agent, unsigned free agent. You got to play well on special teams. It comes down to special teams. Be a team player and play every aspect of it. Thought Bartholomew Mumfield would go a little higher. Well, look at that. You're on the same page as me. I thought Bartholomew would go higher. I'm happy. I love that he's going to Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell has done a great job with building an offense up there. J.J. McCarthy will be the quarterback going forward this year, coming off an injury. I believe it's an ACL injury. They said he's 100% healthy now. He'll be the quarterback moving forward. That'll be a great opportunity for him to earn spots up there from what I read on the press briefing from the Minnesota Vikings. They talked about Gavin Bartholomew really earning some playing time. As a guy that comes in. He won't be a starter, obviously, they said, but he's a guy who could earn a lot of snaps this year. And they think he's a very versatile guy, can play special teams. We talked about that, special teams, and can be a very good contributor in the passing game. In the passing game for the Minnesota Vikings, but also performing in the run game, what he did at Pitt, which is a huge benefit. But I thought for sure that he could have been drafted a little bit higher. Same thing with Konate Mumfield. I thought he could have been higher. I thought Donovan McMillan should have been drafted. So, I mean, Pitt had 3 guys drafted yesterday, between all 3 days. I thought Donovan McMillan should have been drafted. I thought Ben Saul should have been drafted. I have no idea why Ben Saul signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have their kicker situation all figured out, unless they want a backup kicker on the roster. I don't think that the Steelers would do that. Yes, not really sure what the Steelers were thinking or what Ben Sauls was thinking. I think there's other places for him to go play. Ben Sauls is an NFL kicker, 6 of 7 from 50 yards plus. And he played in an NFL stadium, like Acrisure Stadium. Acrisure Stadium is one of the harder places to kick. And he's done really well there. So he will find a place, I think, overall, and between camp. If some teams looks to try to sign him off a practice squad or something else, we'll watch that. I know you already talked about Williams, but what's the percentage do you give chances as of now? I'd say right now, as we sit here, he's really deciding between all 3, and there's a real struggle between all 3. Again, I talked about how one of the comments that was made to me, from a number of different people, and it seemed to be consistent across the board, was the fact that Pitt's quarterback situation is figured out. They have their guy. He certainly liked that. He loved his visit here again because of Pat Narduzzi and the staff, and Cade Bell was a great impression on this passing attack and a passing offense. I would say I'd give it a 60% chance it's Pitt. In my opinion, I think 60% is where I'm at today. The longer it goes out, if this goes on past Tuesday, it's going to drop significantly because I think that decision needs to be made and should be made by now. When it comes to Monday or Tuesday, and Matt Zenitz, who does a great job, put out the news about an hour and a half ago. I guess now an hour and a half. I heard about it earlier today, and that's why I kind of posted the comment section that I had there that said, "Hey, there's going to be some interesting news about Hykeem Williams." But we'll see. I think it's 60%. If we can land that guy, great. I think he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of playing time early if he's not a starter. But also, too, I mean, we have a lot of guys in that wide receiver room already. I think they're just looking at a guy like Hykeem Williams because he's a former 5-star and he's a very talented player. But overall, you look at the wide receiver room as it is right now. You've got Deuce Spann. You've got Kenny Johnson. Kenny Johnson being one. Deuce Spann, he's in there. Raphael Poppy Williams, C.J. Lee. That's 4 guys right there. Blue Hicks, that's number 5. Zion Fowler, L, that's 6. Tyreek Robinson, 7. They've talked about all those guys that have great camps so far. And then there's a true freshman there. What's his name? Not Bryce Yates, even though he had a good camp towards the end there. Who's the other guy out there? I'm forgetting his name. There's another redshirt. There's another true freshman coming in. I mean, that's 7 or 8 guys right there. I think, when you look at a guy like Hykeem Williams, you'd like to have him because he's a big play guy. He can really throw the ball down the football field, extend the field. A guy can go up and get it. I think it's why they're looking at him. But overall, if they somehow don't add him, I mean, I'll be unhappy because I think he's a great athlete and would be a major benefit to Pitt, only make their offense better. But we still do have a number of guys in that room. I think that's a fact. We've got a number of guys in that room. So we'll watch it, and we'll find out here over the next couple of days. Was Cole Gonzales buried on the Oklahoma's depth chart? I think he can flourish here. Dan, we talked about this a little bit earlier. He was actually the backup. He was actually the backup at Oklahoma. He was fighting for he was fighting for the starting position at Oklahoma. His departure has actually now created a little bit of a stir. Oklahoma is now in the act of finding another quarterback because now they're short on quarterbacks. I think that the overall look for him here at Pitt was that one Cade Bell, it's his offense, and he knows the offense already. And I think that there's an understanding that, look at how many quarterbacks we used last year. We used 4 or 5 quarterbacks. I think he sees this as a potential opportunity to get on the field and have a major impact on what goes on going forward. That's how I see it. And his stats, again, he had 6,682 passing yards in 3 years. He had 51 total touchdown passes in those 3 years. And in his third year, this past year, he only played half a season. If he played a full year, he'd have had over 7,000 yards passing. I mean, that's incredible. And I think in the previous 2 years, he really didn't play much as a freshman. So he played as a sophomore and junior. Didn't play as a redshirt freshman or anything like that. So, I mean, in the 2 years, I mean, the kid blew up. I mean, the kid had a hell of a 2 years. And then the third year, had a little bit of an injury issue. So not a big, I think he has a potential to be a good asset in terms of helping the guys understand the offense. If there are questions about it, this guy knows about it. He's a tremendous athlete and a guy who can really help out the quarterback room, but also he can compete in this room. I think he's going to compete for a backup quarterback spot. And he understands that, hey, look how many quarterbacks we used last year. And I think that was kind of the selling point. Hey, we've got two guys on this roster. You can come in here and be one of those 3 guys. And look how many guys we used last year. You can have an opportunity here. So it'll be fun to watch. Okay, I get it. I just didn't know that Mason was outplaying Julian like that. Yeah, Katura. Yeah, he just, at the end of the day, Mason passed him. Preferably, I would have advised Julian to stay and compete. Don't shy away from competition. Continue to get better. Look at how many quarterbacks were used last year. And I think regardless, Julian would have got on the field with a number of different packages because he has that potential and they wanted to use it. So no big deal on that end. Shocked not to see Ben Sauls or Don McMillan get picked. Glad to see them get opportunities with the Steelers and Browns. Cool to see Branson Taylor go at the Tom Brady pick at 199 to L.A. Agree. And also Branson Taylor, he's going to an offensive lineman's dream. He's going to the L.A. Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, who loves, the old school, NFL style personnel where it's heavy overload, especially on one side or the other with the offensive linemen. They love to run the football. Loves running 2 tight end sets. Running a 12 personnel. I think it's a major factor. Sometimes a 13 personnel, they can get 3 tight ends on there, or even an extra offensive lineman. It's a good opportunity for him. A great place to learn. What would you set the spread as for hypothetical Pitt versus Penn State matchup in 2025? Kyle, for 2025, I would certainly have right now, because a lot of guys returning for Penn State, they would certainly be the favorite, whether it was at Acrisure Stadium or Acrisure Stadium or in Happy Valley. I don't know. I'd say about 10 and a half. I kind of put it right there because I think there's still some holes on both sides. Penn State's still looking. They got Pena, who came in from the portal from Syracuse. They're still looking for another wide receiver. They're still looking for 2. James Franklin said 2 linebackers. They're still looking at offensive line play. And I think that the biggest thing that has me the biggest concern for Penn State going into this year is Drew Aller. Any good team he faced, he struggled. And I mean, he was horrible in the bowl game. I mean, in the playoffs. And then in Notre Dame, who was missing, 4 starters on defense, especially at the cornerback position. They had a true freshman playing corner that couldn't even complete a pass to a wide receiver. And then when they finally did try to throw the ball downfield, he throws an interception, loses them the game in the semifinals. I think Drew Aller's extremely overhyped for a guy. He's almost going to be like the next Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, in terms of hype. A potential top 5 pick, all this stuff. I don't see it at all. I think he's got major deficiencies, and Penn State's going to really rely on their 2-headed monster. you know, couple good, man, what are their names there? And damn good running backs. I can tell you that. Katron Allen is one of them, and there's another one too. I mean, they got two great running backs. I mean, run the football, but they lost. They lost Tyler Warren to the NFL draft. They're replacing guys there. They've lost guys through the portal to the offensive line. There's a number of questions there, but I think early on, as we sit here in spring, and until you probably saw something in the fall, but I have Penn State as a favorite. Happy for Brinson Taylor, Gavin Bartholomew, and Kanate Mumfield agree. Weird how Ravens didn't select Ben Sauls, but got the other kid from U of A. Yeah, crazy there. Also saw Jason Collier got invited to the Chiefs and Giants mini camps. Yeah, congrats. Good for him. Interesting, McMillan on special teams. Bubba Ventrone. Whippio is a special teams coordinator in Cleveland. Well, there you go. Bubba Ventrone, Ross Ventrone, two guys that played in the NFL with the Steelers, the New England Patriots, all those guys. The Ventrones were always freaks of nature on special teams, that's for sure. Byron is horrible. Every time I see one of his posts, I cringe. Dude obviously never played sports and didn't understand football. Was thrilled when he got booted from the Pitt Fanatics. Yeah, Derek, I'm going to be honest. And I've heard people reach out to me. He was on Chris Peak's lives apparently. I don't know how that went, but I heard that was pretty bad. Yeah, I don't know. I think from a number of different chats from people that have talked to me about it, I mean, the guy is just I don't know if he's a troll or just something's wrong with him mentally. I'm not sure, but I mean, I've had discussions with him. I mean, for a guy who's apparently an attorney, I mean, the guy's an absolute nut job. I mean, he's pretty bad attorney overall. Whippio Char Valley guy, Matt, I agree. Nate Matlack got minicamp invites to Chiefs and Steelers. That's cool. An edge rusher, but hopefully maybe when he gets to the NFL, he can complete the tackle and complete the play. That's kind of where he's always been. I think Sauls has a chance to beat out Boswell. No, I don't think so. It would say the Steelers' money, I assume, plus age. Maybe he's a backup, but Chris Boswell is like one of the better kickers in the NFL, if not the best right now, with Tucker being released. I don't see that happening at all. I think more than likely Ben Sauls gets cut because they're not going to carry two kickers. If they do, that'd be pretty wild. But I don't see them carrying two kickers, and I see Ben Sauls getting on a roster somewhere else. I'm just kind of shocked. He signed with the Steelers. I'm a little confused on that. To the Chiefs, yep. Anthony, I'm pretty far back, but I completely agree about Duggar. You're making some good points. This is the first year in a while sometime from a Whippio didn't get drafted. The Whippio isn't what it is or what it was. I agree 100%. Maybe the Steelers are thinking about salary cap. They'd save it if Sauls beats out Boswell. Yeah, but I'm just confused there too. Yeah, Tony Kinsler. Yes, the true freshman, Tony Kinsler. He's got an opportunity to get on the field this year. He's made some really good catches, all in traffic. A guy who runs crisp routes, and I think he's only going to get better over time. But then again, as I've said before, we're not going to know what type of football team this is, good or bad, until really, in my opinion, week 3 when they go to Morgantown, because that is West Virginia's Super Bowl. West Virginia was 0-2 in their Super Bowls last year. They got absolutely just throttled against Penn State. It was never a ball game. They certainly had it towards the end against Pitt. They were graced with a 10-point lead. They blew it there because the team wasn't good enough to win. They lost to Pitt there. It was a down year for the rest of them from there. They lost in a Hail Mary to Houston on the road, which was wild to watch. But that's going to be their Super Bowl, 9-13, September 13th. The old 9-13, 13-9 game. I can assure you, Rich Rodriguez will be creating a lot of pressure on his team. But right now, from what I've been told, they have over 75 new guys on their roster that are different from last year. 75 new guys. I mean, I don't think that West Virginia fans truly understand the amount of upheaval that is. And to be a successful football team is very hard. The first time that Colorado did that, they were 4-8 with Deion Sanders. They were 4-8. I just don't know how that goes. Cam Sapp. Cam Sapp is a guy, I don't think he'll play this year. I think he continues to get better, but he will continue to develop and get better. He's had good moments this year, but I think he's going to definitely redshirt this year. Matt, did Pitt look at this Pena guy from Cuse? Think he gave his verbal to PSU over the weekend, but just curious. I know you are a Fran Brown guy. Yeah, I'm definitely a Fran Brown guy. I think he's a tremendous football coach. I think that, he should have stayed there and would have gotten more touches. They certainly love to pass the ball more. His offensive numbers were freakish. I think he stays there one more year. He gets drafted. Not sure why he left. I understand getting more money from Penn State. I don't think Pitt did look at him. I think that, that was a backdoor deal that was done. Penn State certainly made calls. They reached out to him. He was certainly still there. I think that was kind of done. Pena, did his little roundabout by making other visits, but he committed. He committed yesterday on Saturday. But I already knew that. I already knew he was going to be going there, and that was like last Wednesday. I knew about that. I mean, he was already up there visiting. That deal was already locked up. He was just making the visits to just throw people off here and there. That's all the banter and the recruiting game and the tampering game. JB Nelson committed to Kansas State. That's good to know. So he probably got a good bag there. That's good there. So he goes to the Big 12. But I love Fran Brown. I think he's a hell of a football coach. I think he's a great leader. I think he's just very honest too. He's like, look, I'm not paying a wide receiver $2 million. The only guy getting $2 million or more is the kid from Ohio State, which is Jeremiah Smith. And I agree. I don't know any real wide receivers. I think Pena's good, but we'll see what he does in that offense. I mean, Penn State has always had a good defense, but their offenses have been absolutely brutal to watch. Besides 1 year, and that was with Joe Moorhead. I mean, that's like Joe Moorhead was the guy. Besides that, the rest of these coordinators have all had their hands tied behind their backs because of James Franklin, who I think is a very, I think he's a good football coach. He's not great and he's not elite because his record against top 5, top 10, top 25 is an absolute joke for a guy who's coaching at Penn State. We saw the huge thing today that was released on X. He gets into an argument with a fan at the spring game, which, by the way, I thought was hilarious. Like, people talk about it's a beautiful day. It's not hot. It's not warm, but I mean, it's a good breezy day, 64, 65 degrees up in Happy Valley. And that place, I mean, the upper deck completely was completely nobody there. And even down in the lower level, I mean, there were numerous people not there. So they were always bashing Pitt for people not showing up. Like, nobody showed up to that thing. JB Nelson there. How much did Pena get from Penn State? I don't know the exact numbers, but if he's not willing to pay Pena $2 million, I bet you Pena got over $1 million. If I had to bet with his numbers are pretty good. I'd bet over $1 million. Or if he lost leverage, if Penn State lost leverage, or they felt like the negotiation was going on, or Pena lost leverage, maybe a little bit less than that. But I'm not sure. I didn't hear about it. But I mean, if he left Syracuse, he got a lot of money, Kyle. I think that's a fact. He got paid a bag there. So, looking at other questions here, there's some other stuff I needed to talk about. So, yeah, portal. They added a cornerback again, Zion Ferguson, a former 4-star cornerback from UNC. I think that's a hell of a pickup from anybody that I've talked to. Q's expected to land former 5-star receiver Jonte Cook, hoping that helps Pitt's chances with Hykeem. Where'd you hear that, Brock? Let me know, because then I'll be able to verify that if that's true, because then that kind of helps me even more with my percentages with Pitt. Because they're certainly not going to pay both. I can promise you that. So let me know where you heard that one at. What's the other one here? What was I just talking about? Lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Zion Ferguson, cornerback from UNC. From everything I've been told, this guy's a damn good cornerback. He's supposed to be in the rotation. So I think rotational wise, now you'll have, Zion Ferguson. You just add him in there. Rashawn Murray, Rashad Battle, Taman Lynham, and Shadarian Harrison. So right now you've got really 5 cornerbacks. I feel a lot better about that. 5 corners for 2 spots. And obviously you're rotating in 3 to 4 guys in that rotation. That'll be fun to watch. Pete Nakos on 3 logged the prediction for Syracuse to land Cook. Well, if that's the case, then I think that the Hykeem then goes to I think it's even more of a space that it's more between Colorado and Pitt. But I think it kind of helps. I think that really helps out Pitt's chance. And that probably gives me more of a percentage wise of saying that he goes to Pitt. So we'll watch that here in a couple of days. So I appreciate that. That helps me with a little more percentage wise. But Zion Ferguson, a damn good pickup. Pitt continues to recruit extremely good defensive backs. And as we've seen, the amount of defensive backs that have gone to the NFL from Pitt's scheme has been truly incredible. So we continue to watch that. And I think that's going to be an overall good aspect for Pitt. It continues to be a massive plus for Pitt, recruiting the defensive backs and safeties. So I think the defensive back room is completely set. Corners are set. Corners are set, and then your safeties are set. So I think it's a really good thing right there. Defensive line, I think they potentially, they've offered some guys in the defensive tackle room between a couple Ohio guys, Central Catholic grads. I think those guys may not be takes. I think they're looking at more defensive ends than anything up front. Defensive end area. They've added their tight end. They'll be done with the tight end position. Again, before spring camp, they should have added a guy like Ty Lockwood, a tight end transfer from Alabama. I heard from numerous sources that he wanted to be at Pitt, and Pitt felt like they were fine at the tight end position. Anybody with a brain would have known they were not good at the tight end position. So that's a deficiency on Pat Narduzzi and the staff there. Just dumb on their end. I think Ty Lockwood would have been a hell of an ad for Pitt, and he's on number one on the depth chart up at Boston College. He committed to Boston College. He's doing a great job up there. In the Bill O'Brien offense, where it's a pro-style offense, they use the tight end quite a bit, so he's going to be a very important asset up there. Jonathan DiBiase, quarterback coach up there, he does a good job recruiting. I think I saw the 247. I always like to check the 247 rankings. I think Jonathan DiBiase, who was originally coach at Pitt, is ranked number 6 in the country in terms of assistant coaches in recruiting. So he's killing it up there. He's doing a hell of a job, and he's probably got 2 or 3 more guys in his pocket. So we'll watch and see that. Always like to catch up on other coaches that have been at Pitt. Let's see here. Tight end, they're good. I still think they're looking at running back. They've added a quarterback. So they've added a quarterback. They've added a tight end. They've added a defensive back. I think they're going to look to add potentially a defensive end now. And the real focus now is defensive end and running back. I think those are the only 2 positions they have left. I think wide receiver is Willard is kind of like live or die with Hykeem Williams because of the talent level that's there. I don't think they need a wide receiver, but they are getting a wide receiver because of who the talent and the player is. If you got a guy like that's extremely that built and a guy that's that talented and wants to look at Pitt, you make that call and you always get him on campus. So I think that's why they're looking at the wide receiver position there. But besides the wide receiver position now, my 2 positions are really defensive end and defensive end, offensive line, and running back. I think you can add more depth on the offensive line. And there's still more depth. You look at guys like Jeff Percy, Kendall Stanley, or across the board there. Jeff Percy, Keith Guvia, Lyndon Cooper, the anchor of that offensive line. He's going to be a tremendous center again this year. I think he's going to get a lot better too. I think he's going to settle in and get himself getting himself a bag after this year. Lyndon Cooper, B.J. Williams starting at right guard will be a 3-year starter, a guy who will be looked at for the NFL as he continues to get better. And then at right tackle, Ryan Bayer, the guys that are behind him battling, all those guys up front, the guys that were battling for starting spots that are not on there right now. Jackson Brown, legacy name, transfer from Cal. I think one of the bigger offensive linemen up there with Jeff Percy. Jackson Brown continues to get better, continues to show massive progress. He continues to be a guy that will get touches on the football field. I think he's going to be a damn good guy. He can play guard or tackle. Very efficient, very physical offensive lineman, and a guy that's a diehard Pitt man. So he's going to be a fun guy to watch, and I think he did a good job last year for a guy who just got into the game and started getting the necessary reps. To become a great player, you need game reps, and I think that was huge for him last year. Pitt finally put him into the game. They didn't start him in the last couple of games, but, the offensive line rotation, I just wasn't wild about last year. Another guy that would be battling for a guard position or tackle position, Isaiah Montgomery. They have him there. At the center position, Ryan Coretta. At the center position, he was hurt, so Keith Guvia moved to center. So Keith Guvia could be the backup center if needed. behind Lyndon Cooper. But right now, the backup's Ryan Coretta when he's healthy. Backup guard and tackle on the other side, Kendall Stanley, a guy that can make that attribute back there. So you have really 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Caleb Holmes at number 5, and then Ty Ray. Ty Ray has really turned it on. He's a guy that's 6'7", built like a truck. I mean, he looks like an F-350. I mean, the guy's just absolutely moving bodies. I thought he looked good during spring. He looked good during the spring game. He was fun to watch. So really, Pitt's got 4 or 5 guys behind them that you can say, hey, if we needed to rotate a guy in there, he's there. So I think if Pitt looks to add an offensive lineman, it's a guy that they think can really push one of these guys to potentially be a starter. So we'll continue to monitor that. Dews does have a very good job of landing players in the portal who become intricate parts to the team. I am especially impressed with what they have done this year. Any news on a bigger back they may add? Before spring camp started, there was a couple backs, I thought they could have had that were potentially going to enter the portal. Even a running back from Alabama who was buried on the depth chart. Another Bama guy that they just didn't look at. Whatever, I don't get it, but. When it comes to a bigger back, guys, I just don't, when you're looking to sell the running back position, I think people have to realize this too. It's hard to sell. You got Desmond Reed, who's a returning, All-American, who is going to be your starter, and then you're battling Jules Goff and then Jakarian Boozy Turner. You've got those 3 guys there. If he comes in there in a bigger back, he's not going to be a starter. So you're trying to sell almost like a backup job or like mixed handoffs. So, we'll see what they're able to come up with. We'll be able to see what they do, but it's really a hard sell. We'll see if they really, kind of try to twist the arms of some of these players and say, hey, we can get you some time on the field, come in here, compete, and really battle where instead of handing the ball off, to Desmond Reed, hey, we want a guy who can come in here and really battle for that number 2 and 3 spot to where they're able to take, 10, 15 carries and give Desmond Reed 10 to 15 carries plus catches out of the backfield. So we'll continue to monitor that. But at the end of the day, I think they are definitely looking at a running back. I can tell you that. All right, guys, we've hit the hour mark. I don't see any super chats here. I don't see any more super chats. Again, Pitman Zach, always appreciate you as always throwing in the super chat. Truly appreciate that. Guys, tremendous questions again. Pitt, I think, has a chance to be very good this year. But there are still question marks there. There are still question marks. We need to see how the quarterback room continues to develop and play out. We need to continue to see how Pat Narduzzi and Cade Bell continue to monitor how they get better, the offensive line rotation. And again, we can have high expectations or low expectations, but we're not going to know what type of football team this is truly, in my opinion, till week 3. I'm not counting week 1 against Duquesne. I'm not counting week 2 against Central Michigan. Week 3 in Morgantown, we're going to find out what football team is really taking the field this year, for the Pitt Panthers, down in Morgantown on the road. And that's also a game that I'm going to be looking at and grading harshly. Cade Bell and Eli Holstein and the offensive line. I'm going to be very harsh in that football game because when I look at the rosters right now and the just 75 new players, 75 new players at West Virginia, Pitt is supposed to and should win that game. I'm going to be very harsh when it gets to that game. The first couple games, I'll be able to dive through and look at the tape and say, okay, hey, we can get better here, we can get better there. We will have those games, and you guys always see how I point out stuff within the tape that I watched. But guess what? When it comes to that West Virginia game, I'm going to be pretty fucking harsh on a lot of guys because that's the first game. That's the real game. And it's not the first game. It's not the second game. It's the third game of the season. It's on the road. They've had 2 games to warm up to get ready for that game. I'm going to be in people's asses. And that's the game that's really going to show me what type of football team do we have this year. And are they really willing to bust their asses where they want to win? They want to win more than they want to breathe. A lot like some of these Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio State, Michigans, Oregon. That's what we're looking at. We want guys who want to win and will do what it takes to win and be successful. They're getting paid now. It's time to be critical. Again, and you guys know, I'm a player guy, but I can be very critical with a number of different people. They're getting paid. It's time to show up. Like any one of us, when we go to work, we're expected to do a job. If we're not doing that job, we're going to be out. It's that simple. The same thing goes here. Ralph Williams, RW Media, some good QB competition. I agree. And I think it comes down to, between all three of them, Eli Holstein, Mason Heinschel, and Cole Gonzales. We'll see what Cole Gonzales does. But it's a good quarter. Guys, I have to say, we're sitting here right now. Over the years, I think the only time that I was truly okay and very confident in the quarterback room was in 2021 when Pitt had Kenny Pickett and Nick Patty. Besides then, I probably never was. We had maybe one guy, if one guy. You had a number of those guys going through. We had Nathan Peterman that second year. I thought I was good with that, but after Peterman, we'd have been up shit creek if he got hurt. But regardless, there's good competition there, as Ralph has said. I like the room as it is, but there's still a lot to prove. Each one of those quarterbacks has a lot to prove. In the summer, OTAs are going to be important, and the fall camp is going to be important. Spring camp's over. It's time to turn it on. It's time to start preparing for the season and busting your ass to figure out who wants to be a starter on this football team. And it's going to get critical here in week 1 and week 2, and especially going into week 3. Guys, as always, I truly appreciate you guys tuning in. I don't see any more questions, no more super chats. Guys, if you've not done so, subscribe to the channel down below. I'm going to be doing a video soon. It's for my WVU people and my Marshall people who follow me from all different conferences. I'm going to be talking about the Cole rivalry and that game, West Virginia and Marshall, about why that game should be played and why West Virginia needs to swallow its pride and realize, hey, they need to schedule some group of 5 teams to where they're not traveling all over the place. And it keeps the money in West Virginia. We'll be talking about that. I know that'll certainly piss off some WVU fans. They're not going to want to hear it, but it's going to be true. It's going to be all facts. But make sure you comment here after the video's over. Comment what you liked, what you didn't like, what I missed, what you wanted to see, your predictions for Hykeem Williams when the video is posted. Let me know in the comment section about the show. Guys, thank you for always supporting the sponsors. We continue to build sponsors. We just signed again with Colonial Beer. Please go support them. So I am beyond thankful for each and every one of you. It's always a great thing to meet you guys. I truly appreciate the conversations. I truly, beyond thankful for you guys in support of my younger brother, and the professional baseball and his coffee brand. I appreciate you guys sending me pictures. I always love it in my DMs on Twitter. So guys, I truly appreciate it. Cannot thank you enough. As always and forever, guys, hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. I'll see you next time.